use his priest, assuming he loses, which we will assume he will, but we have to play the game, and he will use that to give him information as to how to set up his queue order. But because it's last hero, it's much harder for him to dodge that situation where his priest plays Killian's warlock. He will be trying to force Killian to use the warlock or get a win with his own priest before that. Otherwise, he's in trouble. But if he can get rid of that warlock, I think Impact's lineup does match up very well, other than this first game for Impact.
Yeah, these guys did play each other in the group stage, and kind of taking a look at what happened in that one. They queued same band decks, same game one, and Impact won with his warlock. Then killinallday won with OTK Demon Hunter. Impact switched to Priest, beat the OTK Demon Hunter, so things kind of worked out similarly. The big caveat to that was Impact won with his Priest against Killian's warlock.
Right.
Which is not something that happens very often, right? Especially with how greedy Killian's been with his warlock deck, including Yasharaj as well. So I don't want to call it a fluke, but I feel like those series should at least go to Game 5, with Impact maybe having a slight advantage, but it would be Control Warrior versus Control Warlock. So overall, I think I still consider Killian a favorite, deck to deck, right? Because of the way the lineups match up, even if he loses Game 1. But again, just because it's a 60% matchup does not mean you're going to win it every time, and it comes down to each individual series of Hearthstone. So we shall see. But Game 1, Impact, decent opening on the Warlock. Just has a couple of 1-drops. Goes 1-drop tap, and has double Ogremancer to follow it up. So I feel like this is definitely the start that you want against Rogue with this deck.
Yeah, I agree entirely. I'm going to actually be able to get some sort of stuff on the board. We often talk about the Ogremancer because they shut down some decks almost entirely, like the Rogue deck, for instance, the Weapon Rogue. In this case, it doesn't necessarily shut this Rogue down, but it's just so hard for the Rogue to deal with. And if the Rogue's finding things hard to deal with, you can really fight them hard on the board. And this is a massive deal, this Kazakus, because of that. If you can get a good couple of 5-drops out of it, then maybe he'll get to deal with an Ogremancer or two. And the real problem when you draw 2 Ogremances for your opponent is they never expect the second one. They just play to get rid of the first one, and then the second one, they've got no resources left.
Yeah, a lot of times the Kazakus Golem, though, can give you that resource. It looked like he hit Poisonous on the first one, but then didn't hit the damage. And all of these don't really pair that well versus Ogremancer, right? Or really with how this game's gone with anything.
Yeah.
I wonder what the choice is here. It might be King's Blood to draw some additional cards. But
is that the one you were saying you've never taken?
Not never taken, but it took me the longest to get the achievement for that for some reason. Yeah. And Killian knew. He knew, because I'm pretty sure he picked Poisonous with the hope of getting the weapon.
Yeah, he did.
Poisonous and give minions +2/+2. Oh, okay. 10 Woo picked up. There's an opportunity here for Killian to rebuy with the Kazakus and try and hit a better Golem. There's also, potential for next turn to, bring the Golem back again and buff a wider board.
This is where the knowledge that there's a second Ogremancer would be so useful to him. With the one, he may feel that he can just deal with it now and get rid of it, and that's the end of it. But if he knew there was a second, he would try and get a reroll. But as it is, he's just playing sensible Hearthstone to make sensible boards. But he could get behind here because of this decision. But it's the right decision. If your opponent has both of them, good luck to your opponent. It's kind of the way you have to think of it.
Yeah. Okay, looks like Hysteria is going to be the play.
Oh, this could high roll. Ooh. It did. It high rolled. And you see the reaction from Impact. He is feeling this now, TJ, because he's got the board with an Ogremancer in hand going into next turn. And Killian has been wiped off the board, and that is not where your rogues want to be.
Yeah,
oh.
It's a pretty interesting line, honestly, because let's say it kills like his Ogremancer and then kills Kazakis, right? Or kills any of his board and then kills Kazakis. That's essentially his whole turn, right? But obviously he did get the good outcome, and now I honestly don't even know what Killian does from here. He could go like Foxy Fraud Brain Freeze just to get rid of the Ogremancer, but it doesn't feel like a great play.
But I think that's why Impact went that way. Like, if he high rolls the 1 in 3, which you're allowed to do 1 time in 3, it happens. You put Killian in an amazingly tough spot. If you lose that roll, and like you described, well, you still got to go Hearthstone to play. You're in an unfavoured matchup, so give yourself that chance to get in the great spot and go back to your unfavoured fight if it goes wrong. I don't mind that line. Like, you can tell from his reaction, it was obviously just a calculated gamble to try and get a little bit lucky in a hard matchup. And look what it's done to Killian here. What a mess he's in now.
So
Yeah.
many options.
It is very difficult to win from this position. No Octobot early on as well to try and get like those big tempo swings.
Care to make a wager, friend?
Yeah, near-fight into near-fight against Warlock isn't the start you really want, and that's the start he had. Like, you're not really shutting anything down with those early on. You want to play them into the important turns later on when your Warlock's maybe going to Twisting Nether you or blow up a board here and there. But yeah, he had to curve out with them, and they're not particularly great minions against Warlock.
Choose soon.
Shadow Clone, the secret picked up from Rundorb. Most likely we'll just give him a 2-2, but I think Killian just wants to fight as aggressively as he can for this board. But again, I just am struggling to find a way that he comes back and wins this, because you need to rely on having an early board, because you have to force the Warlock to try and like make tough decisions. And there was really only one tough decision for Impact, and that was to go for, the Hysteria on that board.
Right.
And, he hit it, right? Either way, he clears the board. Or, like, worst case scenario, he clears both his minions. Best case scenario, he just clears both of Killian's. Then the middle road is that it, like, clears the Ogremancer, still leaves him with a 1-1. Either way, he gets a clean board to do whatever he wants with next turn. So, and that was it. And now Impact's just kind of running away with it. He's got a lethal setup. So I don't see an out for Killian here. I think that should be game, unless he can Shadow Step the Wand Thief and pick up Flame Strike to try and buy him some time.
Everything Killian does because he can't deal with this Ogremancer is just a nightmare for him. Obviously, had he had some semblance of board left or a chance to reload, it wouldn't be such a big issue, but he's in so much trouble. And just the Death's Head's even gone Impact's way here, having both those in his hand. They're there for a bit of extra life gain against Mage, maybe, something like that, but they're just doubling up as a way to say to the Rogue, I've shut you out of this game. It's just too much stuff.
So many options.
Is Killian going to... I thought Killian maybe there would just go for the crazy roll on the mask, but this makes more sense. He's looking for taking the minions down one at a time, but it's just a whole lot of nothing when Rogue's behind.
Choose soon.
He's looking for a couple of plunderers or something maybe to at least get something done, but more urgent than that now. And there's the Alexstrasza in Impact's hand, so even though Killian managed to remove lethal from the board, this one is going to go to Impact, and that changes the whole course of the matchup, because now his priest gets longer before it has to enter the fray.
That's right, which is a very good thing. And so far, this series is playing out nearly exactly how it did in their first matchup against each other. Same bands, same first matchup, same outcome of the first matchup, with Impact winning Warlock versus Miracle Rogue. So not the complete end of the world for Killian, because he does have his own control warlock versus 3 control lists, right? Which, you know, it's one of the most anti-control decks out there. But if he's not able to take a win with his OTK Demon Hunter and force the Priest outcome from Impact, then he could still find himself in an awkward spot where even if you say 60-70% matchups across the board for Control Warlock, the best one being for Impact being a 50-50 with Control Warlock versus Control Warlock, I think that, you know, that's a huge benefit for Impact. So nice first win from him, and now I imagine we're going to see Killian move over to OTK Demon Hunter. Yep, there it is. Pretty standard stuff.
Yeah, and if you thought the last matchup was difficult for the Warlock, this one's even worse. Like the Demon Hunter, the Warlock has no way of putting on the pressure, and then the Demon Hunter hits you for 100 and something and you die. But
100 and something.
48 times 3, whatever that is. I don't know. 140.
It's 100 and something for sure. I know that. Yeah, the best hope that you can have as the Warlock in this matchup is to like play Sociologist on 7 and Ticketus on 8, and then hope that Il'gynoth's still in the deck, right? Or like double Fellscream Blast. You get to discard double Fellscream Blast. A lot has to go right for that to happen, right? The Demon Hunter has to not have drawn through the majority of their deck by turn 8. You have to have Ticketus plus a way to corrupt Ticketus on curve in hand once it gets to that point. And then, of course, you have to burn the right piece, even if they haven't drawn that piece yet. So, yep, this is the start for Impact, right? Ogremancer, Spear Jailer, and Sociologist. Sociologist can sometimes be a difficult card for Demon Hunter to answer if they're, you know, trying to dump their hands early in the game and getting rid of Immolation Auras to try and make hand space, because you need, you know, board or spell buff plus Immolation Aura to take it. So now we're pretty much just looking for Impact to hit Ticketus and then curve out, try and buy some time with Ogremancer, Sociologist on 6, I guess, in this case, and then Ticketus on 7 and try and burn some things. He's still missing the Ticketus, but plenty of time to pick that up.
Yep. Killian kept the skull in slot 2, got rewarded for that with the Warblades filling in the left-hand side, so that'd be nice for him. He'll get the skull on 6 at the latest, 5 if he possibly can reduce it with the studies maybe along the way. So both players getting what they want, which obviously is good for Killian for the time being, but his hand hasn't developed further. It's going to be about whether he can hit the reductions with the skull, like it always is with this deck. Yeah, Impact gets the bad news. He saw the card kept, he knows it's skull. That's about one of the very few cards you actually keep as this deck, like, ever, so he's pretty aware that skull's ready to go on 6. He was highlighting that Il'gynoth was in someone's hand last week on stream, like pointing to the left-hand side, saying that's Il'gynoth for our benefit on the camera, to let us know that he's a clever bunny who knew what was going on.
Okay, coin Ogremancer. Try and put some pressure on. Killian does have plenty of ways to get through this. He could just smack it with the Eldrazi Warblades and then Talented Arcanist and Immolation Aura. Or not even having to use that, just using the Throw Glaive, which doesn't have much use in the matchup, and then Talented Arcanist Immolation Aura, which lets him hold on to this Eldrazi Warblades. And maybe use that for face damage to reduce the... Oh, all right.
Oh my, TJ. Something about that Ogremancer timing, by the way. He did it then for the maximum tempo, the maximum damage. And he may regret it a tiny bit now, because if he'd waited a turn, he would be able to shut down this skull. Well, not necessarily shut it down, because Killian might just play it anyway, but give Killian a problem after playing the skull. And then, because he drew the Ticketus, he'd be able to coin the Sociologist the next turn, which is the turn we're going into now, and then Ticketus the turn after. So coining out that Ogremancer has had quite a big repercussion going on to the next turns because he drew the Ticketus.
Yep, Killian, I'm sure, expects Sociologist was card kept in the opening hand. Impact's aggressively shuffling it. Okay, so it won't be Il'gynoth burned by the Ticketus. Killing All Day, though, does need to ensure that he has a way to deal with Sociologist Militia next turn. This could pick up Skull. Picks up Philosophy.
I see.
Another Philosophy.
Yeah, that's not what he wanted. A lesson there, though, you play your Spectral Sights when you need to play your Spectral Sights. You don't mess around outcasting them usually in this deck.
Yeah.
Get the cards.
Yep. Possibility for Killian to still get lethal next turn?
Yeah, because it's kind of low, so...
Yeah, kind of low. He's at a crisp 23.
But 24 is one of those numbers you have to avoid, so, you know, it's a threshold. But yes, it's all right.
So 17 points of damage. Oh!
I love how both of these players nod when they get things right. Like, yeah, I'm nodding.
Yeah. And that is essentially 100% lethal next turn.
Yep.
And by essentially, I mean it is 100% lethal.
Yeah, so much damage there with the double eye beam and the blast.
Yep.
No way
Impact,
out of it.
crossing his fingers, hoping that Il'gynoth is still there and he can rip it from the deck. But we know that hope is not going to come to fruition here. Chaos Strike, Immolation Aura, Double Jump, and Moarg. So, I mean, not even the best burns if Il'gynoth was still in the deck and he didn't burn Il'gynoth, right? A lot of those cards are inconsequential. Maybe the Moarg, right? But there's so much redundancy in the deck, you just need the one to be able to get there. So, not that big of a deal. And this is... looks like one of the players might be suffering from connectivity issues. It looks like it might be Impact just because of, you know, the graininess on his camera. But I mean, this is just kind of the final dance for Impact, because Killing All Day does have lethal setup in his hand with Il'gynoth, Talented Arcanist, Therog Merchant, Bellscream Blast, attack with the Eldrazi Warblade. Could even throw in double eye beam for good measure. For an extra 6 damage, or 8 damage in that case, because of the spell damage from the Ethereal Aug Merchant. So it was 8 plus 4, 12 plus 24. 36.
Yes, yeah, sure, absolutely. I'm just letting you count. Nothing worse than two casters counting numbers at the same time as each other. So I'm just letting you do the counting on this occasion. Mainly because I'm lazy, but also I don't want to put you off.
Yeah.
But that's going to be one game all when that game finally resumes. And honestly, even though it's one game all, and even though Impact got that reversal early on, he's still in trouble, really, because these two decks that Killian has left match up really well, in particular against the Control Warrior.
Yes. Ooh, a Blood Mage Thanos for good measure. This is the juice. He can do it all.
Yeah. I mean, he knows he's lost, but he's more worried about his internet, I should think, than the losing of this particular game. Hope he manages to get that sorted out. As we watch Killian go through the motions, and we also get to check if TJ was right, but he drew more stuff, so TJ will have underestimated by quite a way. And Killian just gets it over with.
Yeah, he had 6 extra damage too from the swing, so I guess I was a little off. No, because he could have played Blood Mage Thanos first for an extra 4 damage on each of the eye beams, plus an extra 6 over the top with the Eldrazi Warblade swing. So that was close enough, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when people start saying numbers with Demon Hunter, if it's not me saying the numbers, I start zoning out. If it's me saying the numbers, it's really important. Is it 72? Is it 48? I'm not sure. I'm really curious. But if someone else is saying, it's like, yeah, I know you know. It's fine. TJ can add up 24s better than I can. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, series progressing I mean, I'd like to say as expected, right? At least from the sample size we have of their first matchup. Now Impact's going to queue the Priest, which, you know, obviously it is a counter matchup to OTK Demon Hunter because of the existence of Mindrender Lucia. But that's it, right? It's a one-card matchup, essentially, for Impact. He's hard mulliganing for Mindrender Lucia, and then his only game plan is to do everything in his power with the cards he's given to find Mindrender Lucia. And that's it. Because as soon as he finds it, he can Mindrender and dump the important pieces. Not as soon as he finds it, right? But as soon as he suspects that killinallday has drawn enough cards to assemble combo pieces, notably Il'gynoth, then he'll play Mindrender, dump those cards, and it's an unwinnable situation for the OTK Demon Hunter. They just don't have enough damage to beat Priest once the Il'gynoth is gone, or once, like, you know, double Fell Screen Blast, for instance, is gone. There's multiple different combinations of things that can hit other than Il'gynoth that can still essentially lock up the game. So, we'll see.
I mean, Priest has the reputation for being favoured in this matchup. If you check the stats, it's about 57, 58% on ladder, top 1,000, but you can't play the Priest incorrectly and you can play the Demon Hunter incorrectly. So I think when you reach GM standard, I still think this approaches 50-50. I'm willing to give it the nod that the Priest is more likely than not to do the Elucia thing, but especially if you can do it twice. Like, even if you get it wrong, you can raise dead and do it again the next turn a lot of the time.
I don't know how you get it wrong, though.
I mean, yeah, but what I'm saying, even if you manage to get it wrong, which is the one thing you can do wrong in the matchup, you get another go at it. So it is just a maths problem at the end of the day. But the Demon Hunters, rank 1000 Legend Demon Hunters are not as good as rank 1 Legend Demon Hunters by a significant amount. And I think that does factor into those odds a bit. I think this is a 50-50 matchup. And, you know, you just go into the box and say, Schrodinger's Elucia, are you in there or are you not? And if it is, the game ends one way, and if it's not, it ends the other way.
Yeah, 50-50 matchup in the sense that either you find Mindrender Lucia or you don't. One way or the other, 50-50. And throughout my Hearthstone casting career, I've always hated, you know, boiling matchups down to just that aspect, right? Mm-hmm. But this one is the worst offender of that, where it does feel like Priest can almost never pressure enough to really put the Demon Hunter in a tough spot. And then it really does just come down to whether or not they can dump cards with Mindrender Lucia. You know, obviously there's like double Mage Scribe in the deck or not even double Mage Scribe.
There's only one.
In the deck for
exactly.
There's Flesh Giants, but Flesh Giants, they don't come down that fast because you're not taking damage, so you're not healing up damage, right? And so Flesh Giants are incredibly slow. But, you know, a Sethic on 2 that doesn't get answered into a Chain of Spells, Apotheosis, and then you can Psyche Split it, maybe you can find the time to pressure. But it's very difficult. And obviously the main goal is to find Mindrender Lucia. If it's not in Impact's opening hand, he will full mulligan for it, I guarantee you.
Yeah, that's the other problem. So I'm the same as you. I don't like doing the whole it's one card thing, despite the fact I just did 2 minutes talking about how it's a one card thing. But you're not even trying to beat them down. You're trying to do the Mindrender thing. So you're not even going to get... I don't know, the day you might have curved Sethek into Scorpid into a random 7-drop or something on turn 5, you don't even get that because you're not looking for that. And by the time you are looking for it, because you haven't got your Elucia and you're panicking, you've got a handful of things that heal you for 5 health and, you know, get you a dragon that's a 3/4, woohoo, and all sorts of other stuff that you just aren't interested in at the time. So it's really, really hard not to talk about the one card. And like you said, those Flesh Giants, you're not even allowed to play Raise Dead with no minions in that are dead, right? So you can't even hurt yourself for 3 and heal yourself back up.
Yeah,
So,
that's correct.
Yeah, it's just really, really difficult to activate those giants. And obviously the Demon Hunter is going about its business. It's just not interested in injuring you. It's just interested in drawing all of its cards and setting up a combo. That's what the deck does. So very hard if you don't find it. But we did go last week. I think we cast this, and there's more interesting ways to find or generate an Elusia than maybe just drawing it naturally. You can try and rip it out of your deck with an insight or generate an insight the best efficient way you can to find the Elusia and so on. So I guess there's that aspect.
Or even, from Draconid Studies, you just choose Brightwing, which there's a huge legendary pool. It's obviously not the most likely thing to happen. But you get Mindrender Lucia from Brightwing, right? Like that's how
he's dead. Brightwing to try and find a Lucia. You're not worried about the pressure, just a Lucia.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it boils down to, though, right? So it looks like we're probably, I haven't gotten word of this, waiting for maybe Impact's connection to stabilize, since it did seem like he had some struggles, and I just got confirmation that is the case. And then we should be jumping back in momentarily to the matchup.
He did make a tweet in the week about how he's expecting now to get relegated. That doesn't mean he's given up. There's two different things. You're allowed to expect to get relegated without that being giving up. And how he's going to fight to the end, but he's expecting to get relegated now. And honestly, that tweet was worth a bit of a read, because it sort of went through his whole Hearthstone life, sort of grinding to get here. Now he's got here and he's done it. So whatever happens, he did get here. So it was quite a moving insight into one of the players' lives, I thought. Made a good job of that.
Yeah, it was, him just kind of accepting that it hasn't been the best season, and there's a good chance that he might not be joining us for another one, right? Mm-hmm. So we'll see, though, because a win here could put him in a place where he makes a deep run through top 8, top 4, maybe even wins the week. I think he has a good lineup to do it, right? This might be his hardest hurdle, and he's already shown that he can beat Killian. And then after that, maybe he finds a good final week and, secures that spot in Grandmasters for Season 2 of this year.
Whereas Killian, though, is in a better spot, right? He only needs to kind of, if he wins this game and maybe reaches the semi-finals, like winning again tomorrow, he automatically jumps so many players because he's already 2 points ahead of Impact. So just picking up 1 or 2 points will put Killian into the pack for next week. Next week's going to be ridiculous, I think, with 7 or 8 players not mathematically safe. It could be absolutely every single game mattering all next week.
Yeah.
I don't want to be sat there next week on 0 points watching the other players around me trying to win. We are going to get into a game of Hearthstone, though. Sorry about that, but yeah, it had to happen sometime. It's going to be the Demon Hunter for Killian as its last hero. He has to queue that. And I believe it's the Priest for Impact. That's what we think we saw. So
it is, in fact, Priest.
How many Mind Renders in that hand, TJ?
0 Mind Renders.
Throw 4. Draw 4.
Still plenty of time to pick them up, though.
Yes. And Killian in an okay spot. You don't really want to play the Fell Screamer before the Skull, but it's not a disaster, so he will be able to play his Skull at turn 6 at the latest. So he has got the best of it as it stands at the moment.
Okay. Killian not going to use the double jumps here. Wants to be able to have the opportunity to play whatever outcast card he gets once he draws it. Usually 3 is a solid breakpoint for that. So you can cast Spectral Sight.
Yep. So I'm just looking at how many ways Impact can make Elusias. Let me count the ways, or let thee count the ways.
Well, palm reading is the only one in the hand as of now.
Sorry, I'm laughing at Killian has the most irrelevant decision ever as to whether to kill this Scorpid or to go face. Presume he'll go face, but yeah. It's actually a choice he has to
Star Student Stelina. So that is the one counterplay to the Mindrender Elusia. Once you've assembled the combo, what?
Okay.
Okay.
I like it. I think I like Mindrender. bait, but he's just wanted to get on with it. He saw Impact Mulligan 4. I guess that helps. Maybe that's why.
Still, though, he's got 2 skulls in hand. Does he really need a Spectral Sight?
No.
Star Student Stelina just feels like the one thing that can buy you, get you an out if they do have Mindrender Lucia, right? I guess he probably considered that because of the way his hand is right now, where he has 2 skulls on the left, and he'd be drawing cards up until that point, he may never have an opportunity to outcast Stelina.
Right.
And I imagine that was the thought process behind it.
You don't need messing around trying to get her into the outcast position as well as just winning a game of Hearthstone with a big combo. Like, that makes sense. He's winning. Impact 29-30 has taken the lead.
Alas, poor warlock.
I don't think that matters much, but I thought I'd shout it anyway because otherwise we're going to be talking about Lucia for the next half hour.
Yep. Okay, so Killian's at 8 cards. So does need to dump a card to go down to 7. That way you can cast Skull next turn. Oh man, Flesh Giant can come down, which is a good amount of pressure.
Yes, like joking aside, it's actually an 8/8 is something that does put a modicum of clock onto the Demon Hunter and makes him burn a card or 2, which might buy you an extra turn to buy an Elucia. So the Giant scores on the Elucia scale at some point or other.
But then again, an 8/8 is not what this matchup is about, Neil. This matchup's about Mindrender Elucias. Lots of them.
Yeah, I mean, what you have to do...
And by lots of them, I mean exactly 1.
That's a lot of Elucias. But
so
all the cards in hand are a fraction of an Elucia in some way or...
Yes, but Flesh Giant is 0% Elucia.
I disagree.
Venomous Scorpid is like 2% Elucia, right? Because you can hit Insight, you can hit Palm Reading. What is it? 100 Degrees to Kevin Bacon? I don't know what the stupid game is.
I don't know. That sounds like a new expansion for Battlegrounds.
Yeah. What it's about is how can I connect these dots to get Mindrender Lucia quicker out of my deck, and how many degrees of separation does it have from Mindrender Lucia? And you want to play the card each turn which has the least amount of separation from Mindrender Lucia.
Palm Reading is 2 because it goes Palm Reading to Insight.
Insight.
Is that where we're at with this?
Yeah. Yeah, and Scorpid is 2 or 3. Because Scorpid can find Insight, or it can find Palm Reading, which can then find Insight, or it can find Renew, which can then find Insight, or it can find Palm Reading, which can then find Renew, which can then find Insight. So Scorpid has many paths, right?
So Raised Dead is a solid 3 because it can raise a Scorpid that can raise an Insight that can get you an Elucia. Raised Dead's a solid 3. Like Giant's like a 14. Like, you play the Giant, your opponent has to burn their cards, and you're drawing random cards more often because your opponent...
Flesh Giant is literally 0. There is absolutely... In fact, it might even be negative, because just having it in your deck has a negative impact on your ability to draw Lucia, because those could be Insights, which could draw Lucia, which he doesn't play naturally in the deck. And Flesh Giant gets you 0 steps closer and actually gets you further away. The more Flesh Giants you draw, the further away you are from being able to do it. In fact, by playing Flesh Giant, you separate yourself further from Mindrender Lucia, because then you can no longer get Scorpid, which we've established as anywhere between 2 to 4 degrees of separation away from Mindrender Lucia. You sacrifice your ability to get Scorpids consistently from Raised Dead by playing Flesh Giant in the first place. So it has a negative impact, and it's an 80, right? You can pressure.
Call him negative. He's trying out there.
Pressure is almost never how you win this matchup, unless, of course, like he hadn't seen a skull yet, he didn't see much draw, the opening hand seemed like weak from Killian, etc., right? Then maybe you can win by pressure because then, he no longer has, he can't skull now because I have an 8-8 on board that's going to crush him. He already played skull before you played the Flesh Giant, so nothing can happen.
That's very, very black or white of you. Like you just can't. You've got to use grey in there somewhere. No, you're right. I get the point. Who wants 8-8?
Nope.
And it takes 5.
No gray on Flesh Giants. Ain't no gray on a Flesh Giant.
I know when I've lost. And it was before I started. But I put up a fight.
Welcome to my world.
We're back.
Oh, we're back! He's gonna play the Flesh Giant. He didn't listen to us at all.
It's almost like he doesn't know about how Elusia bacon works. 6 degrees of separation from Kevin Bacon. I don't know if I played with Kevin Bacon as the name before.
I don't know.
Game.
Poor warlock.
Okay, Eldraki's a card to dump. That was needed. Picks up Moarg. Chaos Strike. Now, Killian's just trying to find combo pieces as quick as he possibly can. And he's got good ones. In fact, he's got great ones right now, but needs Il'gynoth and Fellscream Blast, and then he's cooking. The benefit of this hand that he has going for him right now is it's slightly Mind Render proof. Because he has a Moarg, an Il'gynoth, and 2 Fellscream Blasts in the deck. None of these cards get him anywhere closer to Mind Render Lucia.
Even I can't make a case for those cards. Oh my goodness.
Yep, so you picked the cheapest.
But he's threatening lethal now.
In what world?
In the world where his Scorpid dies and he Raise Deads it and finds buffs for his minions.
Even if you find the perfect buffs, it's never lethal.
Plus you're dead
That's
next
7
turn
mana.
because
What?
be picked up by Killian. So that's a thing.
He doesn't have Fellscream Blast, and he doesn't have an I-Beam. He does have an I-Beam, sorry, but it's full cost. So this looks like a Moarg dump.
Unless it's actually...
And
But it's not lethal, right? With the Chaos Strikes and stuff, with the amount of Moargs he's got.
wait, I don't think so. Because he can't...
He's doing things.
Wait a second. No, it is! Because he could Chaos Strike, and he had already Chaos Striked. So that's an additional 8, right?
Yep.
It is! What? Because the buff was from the skull, and not from a Raging Fellscreamer.
Right. Yeah, so the actual legitimate 0 mana Moargs, turn 7, no Mind Render. That's how you beat the Mind Render. And honestly, he might have beaten Mind Render there anyway, weirdly enough, on that particular occasion. It might have been the one time that we see somebody with a Mind Render not Mind Render at the right time.
Yeah, that was crazy, because he had played a Raging Fellscreamer, right? So he had a Raging Fellscreamer buff active. So I was thinking, he can't play it because that's just his Raging Fellscreamer buff. So he can only play one of those and doesn't have enough mana to go even with the extra Chaos Strike. But he had the Skull discounted Moarg, which did let him Philosophy and be able to play all 3 of his Moargs in the same turn. So nicely recognized by killinallday. I mean, obviously he's a top tier player, and I'm not, right? I'm not in America's Grandmasters. So he recognized that right away. As soon as he drew Il'gynoth, he went to counting, and let's say in a world where he doesn't have time to count or doesn't spot that lethal in that situation, right? Because it's a hard one. It's a full cost I-Beam without the ability to play Talented Arcanist, no Fellscream Blast. If he had missed that and then Impact had picked up Mind Render Lucia next turn and played it, Il'gynoth would have been dumped and he would have had no chance. So very nicely done by Killian. And now he's cooking. He is cooking. Control Warrior's the deck for Impact. And Killian has some of the best decks to beat Control Warrior. He's got a Control Warlock and an OTK Demon Hunter. Both of which Control Warrior doesn't have that much power against. Well, okay.
This isn't a one-card matchup.
In a sense, it is. In the Warlock matchup, it's going to be about Rattlegore. Right? And in the OTK Demon Hunter, it's going to be about Bulwark of Azzinoth.
He does have Magtheridon, by the way. That is actually a relevant amount of pressure because it's so early. It's unlikely, and I agree it's the Bulwark, by the way. That's why I sort of set that one up. But should point out that Magtheridon can actually win this game because 12-12s are big enough that occasionally they can get it done. But yes.
Yeah.
And I presume that's why it's there as well, just to change this percentage from 20 into 23 or something. It's probably a notable card.
Yeah, there's actually an ability for impact to pressure. It just happens incredibly slowly, which, you know, is good for him for the Warlock matchup, but not really good for him for the OTK Demon Hunter matchup, which is the one I'm most concerned about for impact in this scenario. Bulwark of Azzinoth can buy you time, but Demon Hunter has a hero power that innately can get rid of that. So you have to Bulwark and then start pressuring in the interim while your Bulwark charges are being stripped away. So it's a one-card matchup when you think of it in that regard, but not so much in the fact that you still have to kill them in that time, right? You can't just Bulwark and say, "Ha-ha, gotcha." No. You have to Bulwark and then either amass an armor total that OTK Demon Hunter can't touch. Virtually impossible. Or
kind of happened
to
this
kill
morning, but it was the most bizarre game you'll see when Tom60229 got beat by somebody. It was a long time ago, probably out of team. It wasn't out of team. I can't remember who it was. That's really embarrassing. You got beat by somebody this morning, anyway. Sort of, it came down to the last card and some interactions with the Bulwark and all that sort of stuff.
This is new. I'm not sure I like this perspective of Hearthstone. Okay, there we go. Yeah, impact. I'm not sure if he kept the Bulwark or just received it from the mulligan, but good to have in hand. Actually, a necessity if you want any chance of winning this matchup. Killian got a decent hand himself. Has a skull that's in an easily outcastable position. Has double jump, which can pick up potentially more draw.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Right now, we're kind of playing the waiting game as both players try to draw through their deck and maneuver for the latter stages. Oh, in fact, Illidari Studies picked up off the top. Now Killian can Illidari Studies and then equip the Eldraki Warblade and Skull on 5. And there is absolutely nothing that Impact can do about it.
And that extra turn is huge because the warrior will amass, not an army, but a couple of Shield Maidens or some mid-range minions of some sort to do some damage. Like you said, it's a very slow, rumbling build-up, and each extra turn is 5 or 6 extra damage you don't have to worry about taking, so it is huge. Another skull there is going to cost 3. He can do that as long as he can empty the stuff out of his hand.
Yeah, which he really just needs a card that costs 4 or less, which is his entire deck outside of Il'gynoth, right? That doesn't draw another card, right? That doesn't replace itself, and then he can outcast that skull next turn.
Yeah, Impact has...
Oh, that's not the one you want.
Not the card he wanted right now, because now he's... the skull is trapped in the hand. I mean, you can just cast
you can still win with just one Fellscream Blast, right?
That,
like it is definitely possible. So I'm still getting rid of this, but it is a break point, right? That makes it a little easier for Killian to get, or for Impact to get to the point where he can maybe out armor.
Right, and not a single reduced Moarg from either skull. So he's either going to have to do it the expensive way later on with the Fellscreamer, or he's going to have to generate another skull. So this is now where the deck takes a while to kill people, usually. Because now you have to mess around doing stuff that you don't want to mess around doing. You have to find more cards, there's more pieces of the combo, and your opponent's under less pressure in general. So all in all, Impact's chances have gone from not very good to a little bit better than not very good.
Yeah. key here for Impact is going to be the Bulwark timing. Realistically, he could just be dead right now. Double Skull played. I mean, if any of those reduced pieces were Moarg or Il'gynoth, this would be very close to lethal, if not lethal already.
You saw it last game, turn 7, Bosch, eat all that damage.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. So yeah, Impact has to brave it out as long as he dares with the Bulwark though.
Yeah.
If he can't see his own lethal happening in 4 or 5 turns, then there's no point playing it because it will run out before he kills Killian, and then Killian will beat him the second it ends. So yeah, the longer he can hold out, the better. And that's something I thought Impact did very well in game 1, where he took that chance on the Hysteria. Is he's in danger of being relegated, but he's still making sensible mathematical decisions that are tough to make. And he's doing it again here. Holding onto the Bulwark is a tough decision to make when your career might depend upon it.
This is a very awkward situation, to be quite honest.
Yeah, the games where you miss early with both skulls are just awkward because you end up needing 10 mana a lot of the time just to win the game. This might not be that because the other reduced cards are so good, and now he's got the Fell Screamer that helps so much, but it's not pretty for Killian, and that's now going to be really awkward because he can't even chip away at the charges on the Bulwark very easily because of these taunts that Impact is throwing out.
Yeah, he still has double Immolation Aura in the bottom of his deck. Sorry, only a single Immolation Aura. He actually used one on turn 2, and that's really his only way to get through this outside of just continuously attacking. And he needs to do it quick, honestly, because Killian's starting to run out of cards. And fatigue could matter if he needs that many turns to get rid of these Bulwark charges. It's not a Corsair Cash Bulwark, but it is still a Bulwark that he has to attack into 4 times. Again, he was hoping for Immolation Aura there. Let's take a little peek-see. Ooh.
There's some cards.
We're looking inside his deck. Talented Arcanist, I-Beam, Fellscreen Blast, Immolation Aura, Double Jump, Draki Warblades.
And Impact also next turn has some interesting decisions. He knows, he's got a little bit of time. Does he want to try and set up Magtheridon? Does he just go for it with shit?
Kurtrus!
That gets rid of both of the taunts. Doesn't take it. This is fine as well, of course, but... 4, 6.
A hit.
I was kind of rooting for Kurt there.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh, no. This gave him a... because it damages enemies and not enemy minions, it actually removed the charge of the Bulwark.
Right, okay.
Which Kurt did not.
Yeah, that's
So, Kurt's sidelined at the moment.
Actually, Kurt would have, because then Killian would have been able to attack face. Because the two
No.
outside.
He wouldn't have. One was at 4 health. Kurt only has 3 attack.
Oh, okay.
He could have used like a Thera Merchant, but I feel like he needs that for the damage now that Impact's armor total is starting to get up there. Killian trying to do the math, I think. This will draw I-Beam. He knows that he won't need one of the I-Beams.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yikes.
say he doesn't need the thing, and I don't think he does need it necessarily. It is one less piece he has, though. It means different thresholds a lot of the time, but this is a lot of Moags.
Yeah, the problem is only the first one's free. So Il'gynoth, Moarg is 6 mana. And then he can go Ethereal Aug Merchant, I-Beam, Talented Arcanist, Fellscreen Blast. So that's +1 spell damage, +2 Moargs on an I-Beam, which is 16. and then +3 spell damage, +2 more arcs on a Fell Screen Blast, which is 16 per, which is 48. So he's got 64 damage.
But first of all, he's got to chip this away. He's done it once more, so next turn he can attack face and do the things. But he hasn't got a
no,
weapon. That's going to cost him mana.
Yeah, so he can't do all of that. So now he has to... It's 48. Yeah, he's got it.
Yeah, he's timed it. Okay.
Yeah. So it's go time right now, because that's 48 damage.
Whew.
Paying for my discretion.
Thinking about Felskin Blast gets the lethal, and Killian celebrating. Not only was it a tough one, both lethals were fun. Both were not against the odds as such, but you know, tough situations, and that extra point is not just an extra point for Killian, but it all but condemns Impact finishing behind Killian all day. Even if Impact somehow survives, he's 3 points behind Killian now, so
yeah,
it's going to be hard to overtake him next week. Whatever, so it's like one person Killian almost doesn't have to worry about. It changes his maths massively in favour of surviving. And Muzzy and Tincho, and sort of Language Hacker, but he plays tomorrow, watching on, will not be happy with this result.
No, not at all. That moves Muzzy down to the relegation zone. Killian is now at least 7 points for the week. Muzzy 6, Impact 4. That's their end totals for the week. And then Briarthorn currently has 5, but could increase his point totals because he plays later today. So for now, Killian is not in the relegation zone any longer. So that's why you saw quite a big celebration from him as he ended up winning that series. Much different from the first time these guys